Oh my God, Tasmai Shri Guru Namam Vishnu Padaya Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pachayani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskajaya Desata Slapapa. So in the last lesson we have heard that sacrifice should be performed for Vishnu, then you are free from all reactions. And then we have heard that these sacrifices, they are very old. They are there since the beginning of creation and have been given to all the conditioned souls, to the humans and the demigods, to be performed. By performing them, all their needs would be supplied, and at the end of their life, they go back to Godhead. That's the idea. Now, text 11. Devam vaya yatanena te deve bhavayantuya pashparam bhavayanta shreyam paramavapsyata. The demigods being pleased by sacrifice will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. In the beginning of the purport, the demigods are empowered administrators of material affairs. The supply of air, light, water, and all other benedictions for maintaining the body and soul of every living entity is entrusted to the demigods, who are innumerable assistants in different parts of the body of the Supreme Personality of God. In the middle, Krishna himself is the beneficiary of all kinds of jahyas, bhaktaram chakratapasam. At the end, by performance of jahya, one's eatables become sanctified, and by eating sanctified food, one's very existence becomes purified, and by the purification of existence, finer tissues in the memory becomes sanctified. And when memory is sanctified, one can think of the path of liberation. And all this combined together lead to Krishna consciousness, the great necessity of present-day society. So the demigods are assistants of the Supreme Lord, and when they are pleased, then they offer these offerings which they receive to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are intermediates, assistants. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada already mentions, by performance of jhaya, one's eatables becomes sanctified. We will hear more about that. Text 12. Istambohi vode vadasyante chakabhavita tayartatana papyabhya yebhyo ye bhunto stanai vasha. In shares of the very necessities of life, the demigods being sanctified, being satisfied by the performance of jhaya, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. That the demigod worship is recommended for those who cannot understand who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who enjoys the necessities of life without offering them in sacrifice is a thief. So here, the devotees pleased with the sacrifice will bestow on you desired enjoyment. He who enjoys what is given by the devatas without offering them is indeed a thief. That the demigods supply all these things on behalf of Krishna. And if we If we don't offer it back to Krishna, then we are a thief. Because when we offer it to the demigods offer it to Krishna. They are intermediate. But we can directly offer it to the Supreme Lord. If we know the Supreme Lord, but those who have no understanding, who cannot understand who Krishna is, they cannot offer it. That's the point made here. He who enjoys, moment. He who enjoys for himself alone, not giving the devatas through Panchama Jahya, a portion of the objects which the devatas originally bestowed for worship of the Lord, is a thief. Having stolen the devatas' properties, he nourishes himself by that. As a thief is punished by the king, he deserves to be punished by Yamaraj. He is unsuitable for pursuing the real goal of human life. So here, that if we forget the purpose of life and simply take supplies from the agents of the Lord for sense gratification and become more and more entangled in material existence, we become thieves and we are punished by the laws of nature. I think everyone in this world thinks like that, yeah. It's for my sense gratification. But don't think of, yes, what I get, where does it come from? Did we create earth, air, fire? No. And all what we find on this earth are mixtures of that, made of earth. That, yeah. Reflections. Do I recognize that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord? Is a Vasya principle. Again, to what extent am I entangled in material nature because of my past tendency to enjoy separate from the Lord? We become entangled because we are not living in harmony with the Isavasya principle. Same as here, Upanishad. Now, 13. Shakya Sisa Sina Santa Munchante Sabakil Bishai. That, yeah, but first for the previous, a few reflections here. Yeah, in the purpose, Srila Prabhupada writes, no one can manufacture anything. Take, for example, all the eatables in human society. These eatables include grain, fruits, vegetables, milk, sugar for the person in the mode of goodness. And take heat, light, water, etc. These are all the necessities of life. None of them can be manufactured by human society. For one who cannot understand the personality of Godhead, sacrifice to the demigods is recommended. Prabhupada. If we forget the purpose of human life and simply take supplies from the agents of the Lord for sense gratification, and we become more and more entangled in material existence, which is not the purpose of creation. Certainly, we become thieves, and therefore we are punished by the laws of material nature. And now, 13, the same theme. Chakyasisasino Santa Muchante Sabakil Bishai Bonchitated from Papaye Pshantat Makano. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sin, because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment rarely eat only sin. So the devotees cannot accept anything without first offering it to the Supreme. person. Therefore, such devotees always perform jahyas in different modes of devotional service, such as Shravana, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, etc. And these performances of jhaya keep them always aloof from all kinds of contamination of sinful associations in the material world. At the end, how can a person be happy if he is both a thief and sinful? It is not possible. So the devotee's life means jhaya. That because he loves Krishna, he cannot accept anything without offering it to him. By performing devotional service, he remains aloof from material contamination. That was in San Francisco. We had a small temple there, and all these hippies came, and they followed some of our lectures, and that point came up. You have to offer everything to Krishna. That before using it. So some hippies, they bought a new blue jeans and came to offer it to Krishna. Anyway. Those respectable people who eat the remnants of sacrifice are free from all sins. Those sinful persons who cook for themselves suffer from sin. Or David Yabusha. So, Atma Karana. This purification is necessary. So it's tasting in the kitchen. That this purification is necessary because the sins create an obstacle to the realization of Atma. But those sinful people who cook only for their own nourishment, Atma Karanat, food, which is designated by the Lord by the Lord of sacrifice for worship, for his worship, enjoy only sin, agam. The food, such as rice, which they cook, is transformed into sin itself. Thus it is said they eat only sin. My question. Do I cook for the Lord, for Lord Krishna, or for myself? Reflection. Do I cook what I want to eat, or what Krishna wants to eat? I offer it to Krishna because I want to eat. A little tricky. 3:14. Now, Krishna will describe the cycle of sacrifice. And Anabhavanti bhutani panyanya adasambhava chakya bhavati panyanyo chakya karma samudbhava. All living entities subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of jhaya. Jhaya is born of prescribed duties. So, for this reason, the devotees of the Lord who are in Krishna consciousness offer food to Krishna and then eat, a process which nourishes the body spiritually. By such action, not only are past sinful reactions in the body vanquished, but the body becomes immunized to all contamination of material nature. Further in the middle, the material world is full of contamination. And one who is immunized by accepting prasadam of the Lord is saved from the attack, whereas one who does not become subjected to contamination. At the end, nearly. Therefore, ultimately, we have to depend on the production of the field and not on the production of factories. Interesting. Prabhupada writes that. So, if we worship Krishna and we do this Sankirtan Jagya, then Krishna is satisfied, and also that satisfies also the demigods, and that guarantees our life's necessities. This is Baladev. All creatures arise from food, food arises from rain, rain arises from sacrifice, sacrifice arises from prescribed actions. And prescribed actions are described in the Vedas. And the Vedas are coming from Krishna. And that's the cycle. Then we offer sacrifice to Krishna. And then it starts again. Yeah. So this is someone, if for your exam you get a question, describe the cycle of sacrifice. Can you now describe it? That's our body depends on food. Food or rains comes from rains. Rains come from sacrifice. Sacrifice means the performing of one's prescribed duties. And prescribed duties are mentioned in the scriptures, the Vedas. And the Vedas come from Krishna. Let's repeat it once again. Okay. So we live on the basis of food.
So we sacrifice food firstly, and then
No.
From body,
we are not sacrificing in the beginning. Yeah. Food, our bodies is maintained by food. It's made of food transformed. It's made of food. And food grows, grains and so on, because rains fall. And why does rains fall? Because we perform sacrifice. The sacrifice is described in the Vedas, in the scriptures. And the scriptures come from Krishna. You get that point? And okay. So all creatures arise from food, food arises from rain, rain arises from sacrifice, sacrifice arises from prescribed actions. So one should perform the Jagya because it goes the cyclic movement in the universe. Food, the food of living entities exists. Food is the cause of the bodies of the entities. And from the food arise the health of the body, living entities with transformation into semen and blood. The cause of food is rain. By rain, food is produced. The cause of rain is Jagya. By people performing Jagya, the clouds produce sufficient rain. The cause of Jagya is karma, prescribed action. That's how Vishwanath writes it. So one cannot perform sacrifices, will find himself in scarcity. That is the law of nature. Reflections. Do I see the bigger picture, the remote causes, or I'm only concerned with the immediate causes? And you don't see the cycle of sacrifice. Can the domino? Oh, Vidya-bhushan, that's 3:16. It's a little further. 15. Karma brahma udbhavam viti brahmakshara samudbhavam tasma savagatam brahma nityam chakye pratishtitam. Regulated activities are described in the Vedas, and the Vedas directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. So the range comes from Jahya, performing prescribed duties are described in the Vedas, and the Vedas are coming from the Supreme Personality of God. The purpose, the Vedas are therefore the codes of working direction. One has to work in ordinary life by the direction of the states. One similarly has to work under the direction of the supreme state of the Lord. Such direction in the Vedas are directly manifested from the breathing of the Supreme Personality of God. And further, he gave his directions in the Vedic wisdom as to how conditioned soul can return home back to God. And now Krishna will speak about one who does what he said before, one who followed this cycle, all his necessities will be fulfilled and will be able to go back to God. If you don't live according to this sacrifice, and you live only for the satisfaction of the senses, what happens? Evam pravartitam shakram nanuvartayati aya akhayo India ramo moham partsa jivati. My dear Arjun, one who does not follow in the human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin, living only for the satisfaction of the senses. Such a person lives in vain for nothing. That's yeah. The purport. One who does not follow such regulations is living a very risky life, being condemned more and more at the end. Therefore, the Jahyas are directly aimed at the particular demigods mentioned in the Vedas. Indirectly, it is the practice of Krishna consciousness, because when one masters the performance of Jahya, one is sure to become Krishna conscious. But if by performing of Jahyas, one does not become Krishna conscious, such principles are counted as only moral codes. One should not, therefore, limit his progress only to the point of moral codes, but transcend them to attain Krishna consciousness. See here. This is Vidya Bhushan. He who does not follow the cycle initiated in this way by the Lord, but instead leads a life of sin, enjoying with his senses, lives in vain for nothing. I shall not live in vain. No. For those who want to enjoy the material world, the cycle of performing jahyas is absolutely necessary. The prosperity of the world depends not on our own efforts, but on the background arrangement of the Supreme Lord directly carried out by the demigods. The Jahya is planned, is Prabhupada again, same word. The Jahya is planned in such a way that sensory conscious persons may satisfy their desires without becoming entangled in the reaction of sense gratification work. And by performing of Jahya, one does not become Krishna conscious. Such principles are counted only as smaller codes. Reflection. Why do I live? For a life of enjoying the body, the senses, mind, and body, or for attaining self-realization and experiencing eternal happiness? Reflection on the meaning of life. 17. Yasvat mirata revasya atma triptas samanava atmaneva sasantushtas tasya karmana vichyate. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. So the human who is attracted to the Atma, satisfied in the Atma and completely pleased with Atma alone because of its qualities, has no need to perform prescribed duties for seeing the Atma. It does not have to perform sacrifice to purify himself. He's already purified. That state of bliss. The human who is attracted to Atma, satisfied in the Atma and completely satisfied with Atma alone, has nothing to do in regards to fulfilling the desires. So Baladev Vidyabhushan comes after Vishwanath. So Baladeva has taken that from Vishwanath. But then Vishwanath says, because he's enjoying in the self, because he's enjoying in the self is blissful by realization of the bliss of the Atma, he does not engage at all in the pleasure of material objects. Prabhupada, such a person in Krishna consciousness is no longer interested in material activities and no longer take pleasure in material arrangements like wine, women, and similar infatuation. Reflection. Fulfilling material desires is a cause of dissatisfaction. Engagement in devotional service removes our material desires and is a cause of transcendental satisfaction and bliss. What does it mean to my life? So you see, all these people feel dissatisfied, complaints, and nobody is at the side of gratitude. That 21. First. Yeah, so a person fully in Krishna consciousness has no longer any duty to perform. Having realized his eternal relationship with Krishna, his duty becomes self-eliminated by the Lord. 18. Naivate shikate nafto, nakitanete kaishanam, nasasya sarvabhuteshu kachitartha vyapasyata. The self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the desires of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living entity. So when one has become purified and feels happiness in the self by his relationship with Krishna, he does not need to do activities to purify himself, but still he continues his prescribed duties. So this is, yeah. So it means also there are many described duties, but if we engage in Krishna consciousness activities, that relieves us from all our obligations, because Krishna is satisfied. We don't need to follow all these duties prescribed in the Vedas. Just we serve Krishna under the direction of the spiritual master. 19. Tasma shakta sattam karyam karma samachara asaktiyacham karma paramapnoti purusha. Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. The purport. A person, therefore, acting for Krishna or in Krishna consciousness under the proper guidance and without attachment to the results of the work is certainly making progress toward the supreme goal of life. To be a good man or a non-violent man is a personal attachment, but to act on behalf of the supreme is to act without attachment for the result. That is the perfect action of the highest degree, recommended by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. That's 19, 20. So, It means a self-realized soul acts without attachment to the result. He works for Krishna only. That 20. Karmanevi samsitim astita janakadaya lokasangami vapi sampasyam kartamarasi. Kings such as Janak attain perfection solely by the performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, that just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. So he refers to King Janak. Who is King Janak? Please. King Janak. Someone read Ramayana. The king of Mithila is King Janak. King Janak. And King Janak, his daughter was Sita. And Sita became the wife of Lord Ram. So Krishna is also Lord Ram. And Janak was his father-in-law in his previous incarnation. So he's glorifying his father-in-law in his previous incarnation, King Janak. Interesting. And that's 2 million years before. Krishna said King Janak. King Janak attained perfection solely by performing prescribed duties. So you just for the sake of educating people in general, you should perform your work. So Janak was a self-realized soul. He didn't need to perform duties, to perform prescribed duties. He was already purified. So he had no obligation to perform these duties, but he did it to set an example for others. So he's telling Arjuna, you should fight. You are a leader. If you decline, if you go begging, others will follow your bad example. You should set the example of a leader and show that you are not attached and fight for the sake of fighting. At the end of the purport, although one who is situated in Krishna consciousness may not have any interest in the world, he still works to teach the public how to live and how to act. Experienced persons in Krishna consciousness can act in such a way that others will follow. And this is explained in the following verse. So we have all that responsibility. We are presenting Prabhupada. And we should live exemplary in our behavior. Be very careful and act without attachment. Because Krishna says in 21, Yat yat achate shestas tatas evatarojana nasat nayat pramanam kote lokastat anavartate is a shesta, respectable leaders. A leader is a shesta. Whatever action a great man performs, common man follows. And whatever standards he set by exemplary acts, the whole world pursues. Purport. People in general always require a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Lord Chaitanya said that the teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. I heard Sotra Maharaj telling the following story. That it was in a village in India, and a mother had problems with the son who was addicted to sweets. and someone said there is a sadhu, but a few villages further, maybe he can help. So she took her son, took the bus to the village, and she came out to sadhu and she explained the problem with her son. And the sadhu said, come back next week. So she went home. The week later, she took the bus again with her son. And when the son came before the sadhu said very, very, very chastisingly, don't eat sweets anymore. And the mother then asked the sadhu, couldn't you say that last week? Why did I have to come back? Oh, the sadhu said, I was myself addicted to sweets. I had first to stop. Otherwise, I could not speak with authority. That was. So whatever actions the superior performs, other persons will also perform. What you do according to scriptural authority, others will follow. In this verse, he explains how the people are taught by following example. Thus, the meaning here is that, is that the best actions authorized by scripture should be performed by the inferior person who desires auspiciousness. The best action is taking initiation from a bona fide spiritual master. Prabhupada, a teacher must follow the principles of Shastra to teach the common man. Leaders must be conversant with the standard books of moral and spiritual codes. Reflection. Is every action of my life based on the scriptures and the following of pure devotees? That's important reflection. Introspection. And now we have the next session, that text 22. Name partasi kartavyam trislokeshu kinchna nana vaptam avaptam vyavastevra karmani. O son of Peter, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I want of anything, nor have I need to obtain anything, and yet I'm engaged in prescribed duties. So that's interesting. That Krishna says, yes, I have nothing to do, but that's Sotra Swami told about an American tourist. He went to India and he visited all temples and he saw so many demigods. And then someone asked him, who according to you is the Supreme Lord, is God? He said, it must be Krishna. He just plays the flute. He has nothing to do. I was just thinking of that. Yeah. By his desire, everything is going on. No worries. So for me, O son of Peter, there is nothing in the three worlds that has to be done. What results are to be obtained are already are not already unattained by me, but despite I perform duties. Reflection. One who must receive the results of work has done this designated duty, but one who has nothing to achieve within the three planetary systems certainly has no duty. So the question is, what do I need to achieve in this world? Yes?
Become Krishna conscious.
That we hope so. Oh, let's wait a bit. 20. Yes, that it says yes. in the purport at the end, since everything is in full opulence in the personality of Godhead and is existing in full truth, there is no duty for the Supreme Personality of Godhead to perform. Not the end. And yet, Lord Krishna is engaged on the battlefield of Kurukshetra as a leader of the Kshatriyas, because the Kshatriyas are duty-bound to give protection to the distressed. Although he is above all the regulations of the revealed scriptures, he does not do anything that violates the revealed scripture. That 23. Yadiyanam navarteyam yatu karman atanrita mama vartmana vartante manusya parta sarvasa. For if I ever failed to engage in carefully performing my prescribed duties or path, certainly all men would follow my path. So Lord Krishna, because he descended to establish the principles of religion, he followed the prescribed rules, because if he would not do that, as described in 24, if I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. It's further. Following and imitating are not the same. That's the important point. That we should follow great souls, not imitate their activities, not try to occupy their post without qualification. We will simply fall down. Following and imitating are not the same. We cannot imitate the Lord by lifting Govardhan Hill, as the Lord did in his childhood. It is impossible for any human being. We have to follow his instructions, but we may not imitate him at any time. Further, one should simply follow the instructions of the Lord and his empowered servants. Their instructions are all good for us, and any intelligent person will perform them as instructed. However, one should guard against trying to imitate their actions. One should not try to drink the ocean of poison in imitation of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, he drank the poison when the demigods and demons cooperated together to churn the nectar from the milk ocean. The first thing that came out after the churning was poison. And he drank it. He never digested it. It's still there in his neck. It's a blue spot. There's this halaha poison from the nectar of from the churning of the nectar of the ocean of milk. So one should simply follow the instructions of the Lord and his empowered servants. Their instructions are all good for us. That's what we should follow, Krishna's instructions. However, one should guard against trying to imitate their actions. One should not try to drink the ocean of poison in imitation of Lord Shiva. There are many pseudo-devotees of Lord Shiva who want to indulge in smoking ganja, marijuana. At the end, there are so many incarnations of God without the power of God. So-called incarnations. Yes. So the point is we should follow, not imitate. Follow the instructions, not try to imitate their superhuman actions. So Krishna says, if I were not to walk, all people would become unlawful. I would be the cause of mixed castes and would pollute the descendants. So these are the descendants we get. The Skali Yuga. The descendants. Though the Lord teaches in this way, we also see that the Lord sometimes acts independent of the laws of nature, desiring happiness for his devotee. Thus Lord Shiva drinking the poison of the ocean. Following and imitating are not the same level. We cannot imitate Lord Krishna lifting Govardhan hill. That's if you see a so-called incarnation, you can ask the incarnation to lift Govardhan. Do I perform my activities with the intention of obtaining sensual pleasure, trying to imitate Lord Krishna, ultimate proprietor and enjoyer of everything? That's the conditioned soul, imitating Krishna as the enjoyer. That 25 first. 25. Sakta karman avitvam soyata kovanti bharata. Koyavitvam sata sakta sikirsholoka samga. As the ignorant perform their duties without attachment to the result, the learned may similarly act without attachment for the sake of leading people on the right path. A person in Krishna consciousness and a person not in Krishna consciousness are differentiated by different desires. Krishna conscious person does not do anything which is not conducive for the development of Krishna consciousness. So that's important. So we should give the example as a Krishna conscious person by acting without attachment that to the results, and that and then Krishna tells us how to preach. 26. Na buddhi bedam chanayat akyanam karma sanginam yosyat sarva karmani vitvan yukta chamacham. As not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties. A learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, it should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. That So with that, how can we engage others in activities of Krishna consciousness? You will learn more about it in the 12th chapter. 12th chapter, first till from 8 to 12. What does it say? 8 to 12, 12th chapter?
Oh, that's relation.
Yeah.
From highest to what if you cannot do this, then you do this, and you do this.
Right, right. Very good. So we must see on what level people are and engage with them accordingly. That, but not disturb them. Not disturb them, certainly not disturb them with philosophy in the beginning. That so further in the purport. Therefore, a realized soul in Krishna consciousness does not disturb others in their activities or understanding, but it should act by showing how the results of work can be dedicated to the service of Krishna. The learned Krishna conscious person may act in such a way that the ignorant person working for sense gratification may learn how to act and how to behave. At the end, for this fortunate man, there is no need to follow Vedic rituals, because by direct Krishna consciousness one can have the results one should otherwise derive from other prescribed duties. Let's first hear here the comment of Baldev Vidyabhushan. So do not disturb. Though a person may be fixed in knowledge, Vidvan praninishthita bhakta. He should not disturb the intelligence of the ignorance, not preach to them. They are not ready for it. If it disturbs their intelligence, then they will lose faith in performing duties and also will not attain jnana. They become offensive. They will thus lose on both fronts. So we had Janananda Prabhu. This was in the 60s. He organized the first Ratha Yatra. And he was building outside the Ratha Yatra cart. And he was there. And he saw someone came at a footpath and said, "Oh, do you have a moment? Can you hold this wood?" And the man was holding it and he was hammering. And now the next. And he was engaging them like that. And at the end he was with 10 volunteers and he was cooking for them, and it was anyway.
One of them became Jagataga.
Yeah, okay, good. Could be. You see, Janananda Prabhu. Yeah. So instead, you should engage them in action by saying, perform action without desire and become successful. Doing those actions, you set an example for others. So keep calm and engage others. Because that's by direct Krishna consciousness, one can have all the results one would otherwise derive from following one's prescribed duties. Reflections. Can I be straightforward in preaching without disturbing others? Something to be careful of. 27. This is a key memorization process, I think, right? You can all repeat. Prakati kriyamanani Gunakamani sarvasam Ahankara vimudatma Kartam iti manyate Prakati kriyamanani Gunakamani sarvasam Ahankara vimudatma Kartam iti manyate Prakati kriyamanani Gunakamani sarvasam Ahankara vimudatma Kartam iti manyate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are inactively carried out by the three modes of nature. That's a bitter pill to swallow by the conditioned soul. I'm not doing everything. I'm only a little part of the doing in this world. The purport. The person in material consciousness is convinced by false ego that he is the doer of everything. Krishna conducts the material modes of nature. And because the conditioned soul is completely under the influence of the material nature, he knows exactly what they are going to do. because he influences them. Through the modes of nature. It does not know that the mechanism of the body is produced by material nature. No control over the body, not much. The material nature, which is under the supervision of the material Lord. How do we know that material nature is under the supervision of the material of the Supreme Lord?
because of Ishavasya principle.
That,
The Lord controls everything.
yeah, that's true, but from Bhagavad Gita. 9:10. Read 9:10.
This material nature, which
Yeah,
is
Sanskrit first.
Maya Dakshina Prakriti Suyate Sachana Charanam Hitunani Pandeya Charat Viparivartate. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, Usama Kundi, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again.
It's working under my direction. Very clearly. That's Maya Yakshena Prakriti. I'm the superintendent of material nature. I control Sucharaja, all moving and non-moving beings. But the person in false ego takes credit for doing everything independently. At the end, the ignorant man forgets that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Rishikesh, or the master of the senses of the material body, for due to his long misuse of the sense in sense gratification. He's actually bewildered by the false ego, which makes him forget the eternal relationship with Krishna. He's in control of everything, but actually is in control of nothing. Here you have the strong man here. He thinks also I'm in control. The person bewildered by pride thinks that he's the doer of actions which are being done completely by the senses made of Prakriti. And Krishna controls Prakriti. So we know these 5 subjects of Bhagavad Gita, right? Who can repeat them? Yes, Anton.
Jiva, Krishna, relationship between Krishna, then material nature, and karma.
One man missing.
Yoga?
I'm always coming too late in school. Kala.
Alright,
Kala. Yeah. These are the 5. And in Bhagavad Gita, we learn about the relationship between these 5. Not only between Prakriti and the Jiva, but between Krishna and the Jiva. So the doership of the Atma is only made possible by the body, senses, and life airs, and by Paramatma, who is the activator of all things. Paramatma, the activator of all things. I, Atma, desire to move my hand. Paramatma, the activator, is factually moving my hand. That is the activator of all things. The Jiva is not the only factor. That the Jiva thinks that he is the only doer is a result of bewildering from false ego. So it is not that we are not doing things. We are doing things by desire, but we are not the doer. The doer is Krishna. That if the doer does not want us to do something, we cannot. That and we will hear in the 5th chapter tomorrow, hopefully, tomorrow evening, 5th chapter, 8 to 12, I think, that we will hear, or is it the 5th chapter? The 5th chapter there describes 8, 9. One who is in divine consciousness, who sees what really happens. That who sees, who is not a Vimudatma. but who sees what's going on. Navikinst karomiti yuktamayete tatfit pasans pisan shikhan asangashans pasan Kalapankisham yenam unmisham nimisham api in the Bhakti Tidaya. Person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping, and breathing, always knows that within himself he actually does nothing at all. So he's not breathing and all these things. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening and closing his eyes, he always knows that the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. Krishna, he arranges that these senses are engaging with the objects. He creates the objects also. And he gives us the eyesight that gives us the light by which we can see so many things. So, although he appears to be acting with his body and senses, he always knows his actual position, which is spiritual engagement. A Krishna conscious person is never affected by the actions of the senses. He cannot perform any act except in the service of the Lord. And he knows that he is an eternal servitor of the Lord. Anyway, we will see that later. That now, cooperation, Paudevya between Prakriti and the Jiva. You'll see these ants here will cooperate and they form a bridge, and the others go over the bridge. Interesting. The doership of the Atma is only made possible by the body, senses, and life airs, and by Paramatma, who is the activator of all things. The Jiva is not the only factor. It's not the only factor. How many factors are there? 5. What are these 5? You read 18:14. First the Sanskrit. Yeah, Adhishtanam, what does it mean?
The place.
The place, that's the body. The body is the first factor. Next. The karta, the doer. What is who is the doer? It's the soul. How is the soul doing? By attachment, desire. That's the only thing we do. But we are one of the second factor, the doer. And the third? Karanam is the senses. The senses is also the body. Pritachvidam and further? Pritachshasta. All the endeavors in the mind. The mind is also the body. And then? Yeah, these are 5. We missed the super soul. Devam. That's the 5th factor, the super soul. So we have the body, the soul who is the doer by desiring, the karta. We have the senses. We have the subtle body, all the endeavors that come up, and all desires which appear. That's the subtle body. And then we have the super soul. The super soul, Krishna said, Mayadakshana Prakriti, right? I'm the maintainer, and I'm controlling material nature. Material nature means the body, Adhishtanam, the Karanam, and the Chasta, the subtle body. That is all the material body. These 3 is the material body. And the super soul controls the material body. Okay? So we only desire, and the super soul makes the body working according to our desire or according to our karma. So we are one of the 5 factors. Therefore, if Baladev Vidyabhushan says here, Shiva is not the only factor. There are 4 other factors. Do we get that? Yeah? That the Jiva thinks that he is the only doer is a result of bewildering from false ego. And we will learn in this chapter what is false ego and where the bewilderment comes from. Thus, the teaching of this 3rd chapter at the end. So, well, very soon, in 3 verses further it starts. This is understood from 3 verses in the 18th chapter, starting with Adhistanam tata karta. We just read it. Thus, Baldev Vidyabhushan says this is understood from 8:14 Bhagavad Gita, that we are not the only doer. We have 1/5 of the doing. Therefore, we should always think in our life, I want to do this. If you use this first doing, always say right after is, if Krishna willing. Because he has the majority in the cooperation. We are co-pilots. You must consider your co-pilot. Otherwise, you get in trouble. Good. The person in false ego takes credit for doing everything independently. He thinks he's the only factor. The 4 other factors do not exist for him, but that's not the truth. This is arrogance. But the wise person who knows that is different from the senses, a lot of senses here, and their actions, Almighty armed, is not attached to sense objects, understanding that only the senses are engaged with the sense objects. Hare Krishna. So now we come. Krishna starts to speak about the Tattva-vid, one who has knowledge of the absolute truth. The Tattva-vid. Yeah. Tattva-vidum abo guna kama vibhakyo guna gunesha bhaktante iti matva no jayate. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, Almighty armed, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the difference between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. So we must know the difference, working for sense enjoyment or working for Krishna. That's, if we are intelligent, we don't engage in activities for sense gratification. In the purport, this is in the middle. He knows his real identity as part and parcel of the Supreme, who is eternal bliss and knowledge. And he realized that somewhere or other he's entrapped in a material conception of life. In his pure state of existence, he's meant to dovetail his activities in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the devotee is convinced of his awkward position in material association. I'm in difficulty here because he has understood I'm factually a servant of Krishna. Therefore, he engaged in devotional service and does not want to engage in any material activities. Well, I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, I'm spirit, I'm me. That's the real me. Servant of Krishna. A Tattva-vid Chakravarti right? I'm not at all the senses nor the sense objects. There is no relation between me and the senses or the sense objects at all. That's not easy to understand and to realize. Here, an awkward position. I think it's filmed in a studio with a picture behind. Otherwise, they cannot be so peaceful. Hmm? Yeah, but yeah, we are in awkward position. But, yeah, that's the knower of the absolute truth is convinced of his awkward position, immaterial association, and engages himself in the activities of devotional service and become naturally unattached to the activities of the material senses, which are circumstantial and temporary. He's called Tattvavid, for he knows also his own actual position in relationship with the Supreme. Am I aware about my awkward position in material nature? This man is ejected out of the war plane, but we will be ejected soon out of the body. That is our position in material nature. This can happen every moment. Yeah. Good. 329. 29. Rakita guna samuda sayante guna karmasu Tanna Krishna vidomandan Krishna vinna vichalyat. Bewildered by the modes of nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached, but the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to the performance lack of knowledge. So, although Krishna advises devotees not to agitate the minds of materially engrossed persons, the devotees of the Lord are more merciful than the Lord because they understand his purpose, Srila Prabhupada writes. Therefore, they take all kinds of risk to enlighten even ignorant men and engage them in Krishna consciousness. But it should be done with discrimination. Yes. The purport. Men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord, and they want to take risks. A little before. Ignorant men think of the body of the self. They accept body connections with others as kinsmanship. The land in which the body is obtained is their object of worship, and they consider the formalities of religious rituals to be the end in itself. Good. Text 30. Text 30 is an important verse, and that will bring us, make the connection with the next section. 30. So we will stop here and have a pause and resume at 12:30. Thank you.